So then you got back and you decided that. What happened? What was it? The chicken or the egg? Was it the Wall Street Journal decided they needed a wealth column, or you went to them because it didn't exist before you did it, right?
That's right. This was a rather bold experiment for myself and the Wall Street Journal. I came back to the U.S. in 2002, and when you leave the country for 7 or 8 years, as I did, you really notice what's changed, much more than if you live here and you see it gradually over time. What changed to me was the amount of wealth in this country in such a short period of time. All these McMansions that had gone up. I came back to Manhattan.
What year is this?
This is 2002.
Yeah.
Came back to Manhattan just after 9/11. I
Right.
thought real estate prices would crash, and yet they were going up.
We were
going to
be a humbler society, weren't we?
Exactly. Well, we were certainly richer, and the McMansions going up, the boats, the planes, the fashion, the handbags. The whole culture of wealth had really grown up in this time that I was away. So it was this moment of saying, hey, this country's changed. And then I came across a chart from the Federal Reserve that showed the population of millionaire households in America had more than doubled over the 8-year period between 1994 and 2001, and 7-year period, sorry. And I just thought, this is a huge new population of wealthy people in America who were not wealthy before. So let's dig in and find out who these people are. So I went to my editor's office with this chart of millionaires and said, I'd like to cover the rich. And you always told me to follow the money, right? Well, I found it. And the top two editors, Paul Steiger and Dan Hertzberg, looked at me a little skeptically and said, well, tell us how this is more than just one story and a chart. And I talked about how this group of wealthy people was not only changing the very character of wealth in America. We had all these people who didn't inherit their money, they're self-made, but they're also changing our world. Right. And so I said, this is a broader story. Let's try it as a beat for a year. We'll see how it goes. And you can decide after a year whether you want to keep doing it.
I have a really important question.
Yeah.
What kind of expense account do you get when you're going to cover the rich?
Not enough.
Because you can't very well let them be paying for you, because that's sort of, against the rules. And you're trying to keep up with guys with yachts and jets and massive household staff, not to mention any number of houses. How's it affected your life?
Well, it's interesting. Money has never been really important to me. I grew up, my parents are artists. I grew up in upstate New York near Woodstock, which is sort of an old hippie hangout. And wealth was never really a measure in my life growing up. I didn't resent the wealthy, but I certainly didn't sort of want to be like them. Yeah. And it was important in my reporting in this that they could pick that up right away. If you're trying to be like them, they're really not interested in talking to you. So I really just tried to be myself, the reporter, the foreign correspondent, covering this exotic world and reporting back to the rest of America.
And it's been since how long now that the column has had its
Well,
life?
I started writing these articles, which were very popular with readers in 2003, 2004. I did the book, and then...
Is it a weekly column?
And the weekly column just started this year in 2007. It's called The Wealth Report. It appears in the Wall Street Journal every Friday. I also write a daily blog.
Yeah, I love your blog.
Thank you.
Is that daily?
It is daily.
Okay.
I update it daily, except for today.
So you can get a fix of the Wealth Report daily.
That's right. And the blog is sort of daily dispatches from Richistan. So if you just can't get enough of this stuff, you get your daily fix of rich people on the Wealth Report.
Well, you know what it is? It's sort of TMZ for people with brains. Wouldn't you say?
It is. I was talking to Sheldon Adelson's attorney, who's a funny guy from Brooklyn, and he said, I was explaining to him what I do in the book. He said, so you're kind of like the thinking man's Robin Leach.
Well, yeah.
And I said, yeah, that's about right. So that's my moniker.
If there'd only been in Robin Leach's time the kind of money there is now, it really. I mean, because the book has a lot of titillating qualities in it, because we are talking about rich people, and that's fascinating. But sociologically, I think it's fascinating too. Just the social history of not just the U.S. but the world, because one of the interesting things about it, I think, that stands right out is that, first of all, most of the richest people, or many of the richest people, aren't people we've heard of. We know about Donald Trump, we know about Bill Gates, we know about a few others, but when you look at the long list of deep wealth and what you call the upper Richistanis, which are really the upper billionaires, Many of them are unknown to the average person. They could walk among us and we wouldn't know who they are. But most of their wealth has happened in the last, what, decade, 2 decades?
Last 10 years.
What caused that?
Well, one of my favorite people that I met in the book is a guy named Ed Bazinet, and to me he typifies what today's wealth is all about.
And why you're writing your column.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Ed Bazinet is someone we've never heard of. He started in Eden Prairie, Minnesota as a florist, and he started selling miniature ceramic Victorian houses with little lights inside them. He thought, well, this is a bizarre idea. It'll never sell. Well, it did. Became a company called Department 56, which makes miniature ceramic houses that with the little lights that people put under their Christmas trees during the holidays. He sold that company for a profit for himself of $150 million. He now lives in Manhattan in a huge penthouse. He's got a private plane, yada, yada, yada. But he's a guy we've never heard of with a product that most of us have never heard of, and yet it's created enormous amounts of wealth. He's an entrepreneur. He's self-made. He spent his life building this company, and that's what so many of today's wealthy are really like.
They had a good idea.
They had a good idea at the right time, and they were very passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you look today at technology, financial markets, and globalization, those 3 things have made it much easier for someone with the right idea at the right place and the right time to make a lot of money. We read this morning that Microsoft is investing in Facebook, valuing Zuckerberg's share at $3 billion. He's 23 years old. You know, never in history have people so young been able to make so much money so quickly.
And many of the, Bazinet's a good example. He's not tech money.
Right.
And how much of it is tech money?
Well, you know, it's hard to get statistical breakdowns of how
Right.
much is tech, how
But if
much
you
is
had
Wall
to say,
Street.
is it?
I'd say it's probably 20%.
Yeah.
I'd say
yeah.
it's between 15 and 20%. People who've started their own companies and then sold them, and again, these can be retailing companies, consumer products, those are the bulk of today's wealthy.
Right.
We read a lot about the Wall Street guys, we read a lot about Stephen Schwarzman in New York, we read a lot
Right.
about the .com guys, we read a lot about celebrities, but celebrities are only 3% of today's multimillionaires. So it's
And are
not
any of them billionaires?
the celebrities?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, Oprah is, and a couple other people. but
Martha Stewart's not up there
Martha
anymore.
Stewart, no longer. No,
No
she,
longer. Did what happened to her do her in? I mean, do in her great wealth?
In a way, because it was her stock price falling as a result of what happened that was.
And
really
she's never
tied up
been
in
able
her.
to get back to where.
Not yet.
to
She
where
will. She will.
You believe she will.
I will.